better person to talk to about basketball day in Indiana than someone that grew up in this state, played in high school at Zionsville, college at DePaul, coached at Butler, now in the NBA. Brad Stevens, great to see you. And I guess, what role did growing up in Indiana play on your profession?
Well, I think it's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, right? When you're a kid growing up in the state of Indiana, for me, you know, my dreams were to be a high school basketball player in the community I grew up in Zionsville, and then ultimately to go on and play in college. And I remember at that time the next dream would be on the Olympic team, because when I was 8 years old, Coach Knight coached the Olympic team, and Steve Alford was a young guy on it, and Michael Jordan was on that team, et cetera, et cetera. And so I remember vividly each moment, you know, along that timeline about how basketball impacted me. And I mean, I said to this day, when I got my hoop in my driveway when I was 8 years old, I don't know if I've ever had a better day.
And you decided to go to Butler. What was the thought process like? And early on in that first year, did you have regrets?
I never had regrets. It was really interesting. Like, I went from making a good living with probably a financially sound future to, you know, making nothing, and ultimately being hired in the lowest spot on staff, and having to work my way up and learn how to coach, and learn, you know, the way that a coach views the game, which is a totally different lens that I had ever looked at the game through. And I just had a blast with it.
You're someone that appreciates the history of Indiana basketball, and I think you probably embrace the part that Butler played in this great history of the state and where its place is. And you seem like someone that, even though you're asked about it a lot, especially in March when you're around the NBA, you're happy to talk about it and to share some of the stories and the lessons maybe those kids taught you and you were able to teach others.
Well, those were special moments, and to think about those teams, and to think about even figuring out a way to be somewhat in the discussion for a good moment in the state of Indiana with regard to the history of basketball is quite an honor, right? And so for us, we look really fondly on that. We look really fondly on the runs that were made, but most importantly, I think we're all so proud of who we made it with. You know, those players, the staffs, the community at Butler, the faculty, everybody around. Everybody was so aligned in trying to make it the best experience possible.
Brad Stevens, we thank you for your time on Basketball Day in Indiana.
Sure,